Welcome to the Dalton Police Department's Behind the Badge. I'm Chief Riello, and thanks for joining us today. Just want to tell you we've got a great show. We've got a couple of more wonderful officers from the department to introduce you to. You may already know these two gentlemen. But they play a great role in the department. One works the day shift and the other works the midnight shift. The other thing that we're going to do today is to bring you into our world a little bit, because the last couple of weeks we spent some time as a department, every member in this department, putting our heads together and trying to decide, how do we best serve the town of Dalton? What do we need to do to make our service the best? How do we make sure that we're meeting the needs of everyone in the town of Dalton? So we're going to get into that once I introduce these gentlemen and we talk a little bit about themselves. They have very unique backgrounds, and if you recall from the first show, we had a couple of day shift officers on, and they did a great job, and they also had some fascinating backgrounds. The thing that really clicks with me anyways is that these officers are here for you, and that's the bottom line. And that's the message that's been coming through to me since I've been in this department for only 2 short months. Anyways, what I'd like to do is introduce the gentleman, or the officer on my left, and that's Officer Bustin Buzzella.
Yes, sir.
And I'm going to have him tell you a little bit about himself. He works the day shift, but you got an interesting background.
So as the chief said, my name's Bustin Buzzella. I've been a police officer here with Dalton since 2013. I'm originally up here from Texas. I've been here for 12 years now. Before I became a police officer, I spent 8 years in the Army. 2010, 2011, I deployed to Afghanistan. When I came home, I joined the fire department here in town for a couple of years, waiting to get hired. I'm married, I've got 4 kids, and spent the last 7 years on the midnight shift. So now I'm on day shift. It's new to me. I can tell you, sunlight and I don't cooperate all the time, but
it's a whole different world, folks. And I think when you hear from Sergeant Powell, we'll kind of share some of those differences, because once he introduces himself, we'll talk about what's it like on the midnight shift, what's it like for the officers on the day shift. But before I switch to the sergeant, Texas, you came from Texas.
I did.
What brought you here?
So I was in the Army down there. My wife, she grew up in Dalton.
Yeah.
Shout out to my wife, Stephanie.
You better.
Yeah, that's right.
And the kiddos too.
And the kids, 4 kids. So my wife was in the Air Force. We met down in San Antonio.
Oh, okay. In San Antonio, and then when she got out, you headed up this way?
We made our way up here. That's where her family's from, so
all right.
Followed her up here.
So you staying or you going back?
Well, I bought a house across the street from the station, so I'm here for a while at least.
I'd say you're here. Yeah, let's give another shout out to your kiddos. What are their names?
So I got 4 kids, 3 boys and a little girl. My oldest boy is Caden. My middle son is Jackson. And then my youngest son, he's the one with the red hair. Can't miss him. His name's Houston.
Houston.
And then I've got a little girl who just turned 4 recently, and her name's Evelyn.
All right, great. That is great stuff. And on the end here, Sergeant Powell, just recently promoted to sergeant. If you folks had followed us a little bit the last couple of weeks, we were successful in adding 2 sergeants to the ranks of the Dalton Police Department. And the reason we did that was to increase our command presence and the supervision of officers in the Dalton Police Department. And we've found that it certainly makes a difference when you have someone, a seasoned veteran like Sergeant Powell, get promoted to sergeant. He's got 17 years experience as a police officer, and he can share that with the officers that work his shift. And a lot of those officers are part-time officers. So, but anyways, Sergeant Powell, a little bit about yourself and your history.
Thank you, Chief. Yes, Sergeant Geoffrey Powell. I was born and raised in Dalton. I've had family members in the police department, dispatch them. My mother was a dispatcher for years when I was growing up, which had its negatives and positives. She kind of always seemed to know where I was. And in 2003, I became a reserve part-time police officer in the town of Hinsdale. Fortunately, 2 years after that, I was given the opportunity to come down to Dalton, and I've been here since 2005. So I'm going on my 15th year here in Dalton, 17 years overall. I have 2 grown daughters, my oldest Hannah and my youngest Mackenzie. Mackenzie's in college right now. and my oldest Hannah is getting married next year, and she just gave birth to my first granddaughter, so Hunter. So that's it in a nutshell.
Wow, that's a lot.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's why I work so much.
That's right. You'll see the sergeant out on the road quite a bit, folks, out there directing traffic, working extra details, because to make a living, that's what we have to do.
Yeah.
And I think I want to get into it a little bit before we move on to some of the things that we accomplished last week with the professional facilitator that helped us along the way. Maybe just a little bit about what it's like working the day shift for you. What's been now? You said you work nights. Now you work on days.
I primarily worked midnights for 7 years. So the switch to day shift was, black and white, night and day. Essentially. At night we're out there proactively looking for crime because everyone's at home. Everyone's supposed to be home, sound and safe, and asleep. So we're out going up and down all the side streets, trying to make sure we cover the entire town.
Yeah.
Looking for the people who might be out there up to no good.
And there are.
And there are, unfortunately.
From time to time. Yeah. Okay. And let's talk about the day shift. We'll shift there. And we're gonna let the sergeant talk a little bit more about the evening shift. He seems to have been there probably you've been there as long as he was on. How long have you been on midnights?
I've been on midnights now for a little over 10 years.
Oh, okay. All right. So got a pretty good feel for it then,
Yeah.
right? So the day shift, what's that like for you?
As I said, it's a big change. First of all, there's a lot more traffic. So, we try and be visible to the town, make sure everyone's out, seeing that we're out, make sure, the drivers on the road are all being safe. There's quite a lot of miles for the small town of Dalton. So we try and split ourselves up to make sure we're covering as much of the town we can in our 8-hour shift.
Right, because there's generally two officers on.
Yes, two officers.
Not officers around every corner like sometimes people might think.
No, I think, you see guys standing in the road working on details, so that there might be that misconception. But when we're fully staffed and functioning properly, there are only two of us on the road at any time.
And I think, you made a good point about the size of the town. And I think, and I'm sure a lot of residents get that. But a lot of times folks don't understand how many roads are in this town, how big the town of Dalton really is. When you're out there going from end to end, if you will. There's there's neighborhoods everywhere. There's pockets here and there. So it's not something like you can just go out and it's congested and you work a certain area. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. One area might be really densely populated, and then we might end up having to go to a call 7 minutes away on the other side of town, and that's 7 minutes with good traffic.
Right.
If it's lunchtime rush hour traffic, it can certainly delay us.
Right. And sometimes folks might think, well, it's a small town of Dalton. Why can't you just get here? Well, that's why.
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Well, you break it down. Even if we're doing 60 miles an hour, if you're 3 miles away, that's 3 minutes.
Exactly.
And I think sometimes people forget about that in the moment, which is understandable.
Oh yeah, when you call, yes, definitely. When you have a call for service, it's always what took you so long, that kind of thing.
Yes.
So, Sarge, a little bit about the midnight shift. I think that a lot of folks, as he alluded to, people generally are not up that late. They're not up after midnight. People are usually, getting ready to go to bed and get up in the morning to go to work. What's it like? You've been there for 10 years. What have you seen change over the years?
Yeah, the midnight shift is a different beast all its own. Anybody who's worked it, that's gone off of it, or does a guest patrol on it for overtime, always comes back and says, yeah, it's just, it's a different way of life. There's different people out. I think the misconception in town, and especially when you talk to some of the seniors and the little bit older community that's lived here all their life, it's not little quiet Dalton that it used to be back in the 80s, the 70s, the 60s. We have big city crimes that happen here, just not as a frequent basis. We can go from, we joke, you can go from tumbleweeds, to a hot call in a split second. Yeah. You can have nothing going on for 2 hours straight, and next thing you know, you're going to, a hot, weapon involved type of crime.
Sure.
A serious bad accident. We deal with a lot of drugs and alcohol related crimes.
Right.
And like Officer Buzzella stated, you're more looking for things that don't fit, that aren't right in the moment. And again, I think that's the benefit of working it for so long. I know when a car's been parked in an area for a while, if somebody's lights in their house are never on, and all of a sudden they're all on and I see a door open. That's something that sticks out, and that's the night shift. Those are the things that you're cued into. You're looking for what in this picture isn't right, and where does it take me? Where does it bring my actions to where I'm going to go investigate and make sure everything is okay? So it's a beast of its own, and I think, we ask of the community to, you can aid with helping us do our job by being vigilant for yourselves, protecting your own property. We deal with a lot of car breaks. Generally, those, for the most part, that we've recognized when catching the people that have done it, is they are related to drug-related crimes, people looking for a quick fix, looking for change in a car, somebody that leaves their wallet in their car. They're not necessarily stealing cars, although we have had that. But almost 100% of the time, it is found out after when we investigated that those cars are left unlocked. And, sometimes I just shake my head and say, it's an uphill battle for us. Yeah. We caught, it was about 5 or 6 years ago, with the assistance of a vigilant citizen who looked out his window, saw something that didn't look right to him at 3 o'clock in the morning, caught 2 juveniles who were on drugs going through cars on High Street, and we were able to catch them. And I interviewed both of them with their parents, and they both admitted to doing it. They had done over 80 cars over about a week and a half period of time. Wow. And they stated all they did was they split the street in half, and they walked down the street, and each one went up a driveway on either side of the road, and they shake door handles. If the car door was unlocked, they'd go through the car. If it was locked, they'd move to the next car. So it was kind of an eye-opener of saying, we can't help them do their crimes. Lock your doors, lock your houses, lock your garage, lock your sheds. So
people, you're absolutely right, Sergeant. I think, and I think because, in our world, we're dealing with this on a regular basis, and it sounds like such a simple message, to our residents and citizens, just lock it up. But so many people just, they don't.
Sure.
I know I would venture to guess that us and probably every police officer here in Dalton, I know I lock the doors behind me. I don't care if it's 10 o'clock in the morning. Right. You lock your car, you lock your house. I just do. Yeah. And, and it's because you've seen, and what you've described, we've seen over the years, you see how people become victims. And, while they say, well, this is it's a wonderful little town of Dalton. Beautiful. However, just because it says entering Dalton doesn't mean it says keep out of Dalton either. People can go.
We don't put the gates down.
No, they don't put the gates up. So they're coming from Pittsfield, they're coming from New York, they come from all over. They come from Springfield, they have to come through us to get to wherever they're going, and they do look for crimes of opportunity.
And,
it's just
and that's an important thing. You bring up that we are a point in between major cities that have major gang and drug distribution problems and things of that nature. And Route 9 is a thoroughfare. They want to stay off the Mass Pike.
It is.
Okay, they have officers and specialized units that look for those people. Yeah. So they come the back roads, they come through Route 9, and we've had major drug arrests just on routine traffic stops of people coming from Worcester, from Boston, from Holyoke, that are going to Pittsfield, that are passing through to Albany. So people have to realize that those crimes of opportunity, if they're there, they're going to take them. That's a freebie for them.
No question.
They don't know anybody in Dalton. People don't know them. So.
Right. Yeah, it's just they take advantage of the opportunity. Yes. And it's not unlike anywhere else, folks. And I'm just thinking back a few years when I was chief in Suffield, Connecticut, which is a small town, but it was between Springfield and Hereford, and we dealt with the same kind of issues, and it was less developed than Dalton is. So you have that transient population. They look for the easy way off the highway, and they come through places like Dalton, and But when you got seasoned officers, and these two are, they're familiar with that, and they're doing their part. And we respectfully ask you to do your part. Please lock your doors. It really does make you feel a lot better at night if you do have your doors locked. I'll share one story, and it goes along with the cars getting broken into and that type of thing, and things stolen from them. A few years back, when I was chief in Falmouth, Massachusetts, we had a meeting from a street that had been victimized. The bad guys had gone up and down the street. They went up the street. Every car, again, as the sergeant said, that was open, they took stuff. They took wallets, they took money. And I remember during the meeting, we asked who lived at, I forget the number on the house, but there's a certain address, and the gentleman raised his hand, and we thanked him for leaving the keys in his car because they stole his car and they stopped breaking into the rest of the street. So he saved all those people from becoming victims, but they got his car. And I maybe make that sound light, but that's the reality. That's what happens. So I think it's important that we get that message out, and we're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep getting that message out to you folks in a number of different ways going forward. So anything else you'd like to add as far as
on the note of the cars, when we have those nights where there are 30 or 40 broken into, people are definitely asking us, like, oh, what are you guys doing at night?
Yeah, where were you? Where were you?
I'm going to tell you, he and I personally together have sometimes played cat and mouse with these people while they're breaking into cars.
Really?
He'll be in the cruiser, I'll be out on foot. We'll go up one street, go over a street, and when we circle back around 2 minutes later, there will be cars with dome lights on. And it's like we were just there 60 to 90 seconds ago. It is so dark at night, and our cars have headlights. So they see us coming and duck into a bush.
Yeah, whether
or
it's a
behind
police
tree.
car or another car, they're going to see you coming. They're not going to be actively breaking into a car when there's a car coming by.
It's
So
really
again,
hard to
we've
catch
been lucky with the citizens. We've had it in the South End, like I said, the gentleman on High Street, that he happened to be up in the middle of the night to use the restroom and looked out his window and something didn't look right. And that's where the partnership of the community and the police department, that's at its finest right there. Right. And we recognize those people and we thank them, and the whole community should thank them for that.
And what we don't want folks at home to think is that don't ever think that it's not that important. I don't think I should call them. Always err on the side of caution. You call us. If you see it, hear it, you report it. It may sound stupid to you, but it may be a huge piece of what we're looking for.
Yeah, you can't imagine the number of times we get the week later, after now a bunch more breaks have happened, that we get the phone call that says, I was going to call you guys last week because my dogs were going crazy and my garage sensor light went off, but I didn't think anything of it at the time. We're working. Call us. We'll at least drive by. We don't need to come and talk to you. That's fine.
No, that's right. You don't even. Just tell us.
We'll drive by and
on,
we'll check the area. We'll put ourselves in the area for a while and extra time. So
I love the folks that call, and if you're one of them, please don't be this person. I didn't want to bother you. What the heck? That's why we're here.
That's our job.
To bother us. You need to.
Yep.
Without information, we can't function. We can't do our job.
And Dalton is so small, sometimes we're really bored, so please call us.
That's the other part.
There are those nights, so please call us when you see something.
There are those nights. And those are okay. When we have nights like that, we're
I'll
happy
take 'em.
because
I'll
we know you're happy as
Yep,
well.
I'll
So
take those.
That works out well. Anyways, well, that's good. Again, we want to keep you clued in. We want to give you a sense of what it's like for especially these officers, working day in and day out. And I know sometimes when you see officers, you see them riding by, or you see them. Here's the other one another thing that I'll get a complaint. Say, that officer's just sitting in that car, and that officer's just sitting there texting. I know he's texting. He's looking down. Ladies and gentlemen, we have computers in the car. That's how we communicate to each other and to the police department. That's what that's there for. And I think a lot of times people, if they see an officer sitting there, they might be running plates. They're doing their job.
We also have cruiser cell phones. Now we don't go back to the station to make a phone call to a potential victim or a witness. We'll call them from the cruiser.
Yes.
Saves us that time. We get to you guys faster that way.
Yeah, in fact, I know that happened to you today. You took a call. I think
Officer Gaudet did, yes.
Officer Gaudet. He
Yes.
called him from the cruiser. Didn't have to come off the beat, come into the station like years ago where you
Yeah.
have to do that.
Right.
So yeah, you can be sitting there on your phone. So I guess I'm just asking folks, give us the benefit of the doubt, really. Because 9 times out of 10, it's, the officers are definitely doing their job and passing information and communicating with each other, because when there's only 2 officers out there, and I'll say that many times, that's all there is. That's all they've got. They've got to communicate and look out for each other. So every bit of information that you can give them and that they can give each other is huge, and it makes everybody safe, you and them. So anyway, let's shift gears just for a little bit. I think we got a few minutes left anyways. I just want to get into a couple of areas, and I mentioned it in the beginning to the ladies and gentlemen at home, that we as a department came together and wanted to take a look at ourselves and say, what are we all about? How are we serving the town of Dalton? How do we best do that? And there's a couple of documents I want to read here for you, and these are documents that were developed by the police department, the police officers, with the help of a facilitator. I was not there, wasn't a part of that. The one part I was, and I'll share that with you in a second, but the first thing was we had to redefine ourselves through a mission statement, a very current mission statement. And what is that? That's what tells you what we're all about and what we want to accomplish with you. And I'm going to ask Officer Buzzella to read what the mission statement is that the officers came up with for the town.
Yeah, as Chief said, we sat down collectively, sergeants and the patrol officers, and what is our purpose? That's what we are defining here, what our purpose is. So I'm going to read it to you, and it's probably going to be available on our department website
Yes.
and our Facebook page as a follow-up.
Facebook page is coming.
It's coming.
It's not there yet, but it's coming, folks.
Well,
That's the result of this.
Might have been turned on accidentally yesterday, Chief.
All right, it's on.
So most of the public watching already knows it's there.
They just didn't tell me, all right? That's okay.
So our mission statement is to partner with and service our community with dedication, compassion, and empathy while showing respect to all community members. To protect life and property in the pursuit of truth and justice, we will continue to invest in the community we serve through education and proactive enforcement.
Now, if you could, and I know you were both there working on this, maybe a little bit of background. We didn't just copy this out of a book, folks. This came from the officers that attended. Maybe a little bit of how you came about to agree on this statement.
Yeah, so with the guidance and assistance from the facilitator, we broke the department into 3 working groups. There was no specified, who was in what group. It just happened to be where you sat when you sat down. And then we basically did a brainstorming session independently as a group, and came up with what to us as a group and to the individuals in the group is what we thought were important points. Not a whole statement, but just specific points on what we as a police officer, what myself as a sergeant, what I think is important as my role. What do I want to give to the community? What do I want to do with the community? And then the other individuals, and then we kind of prioritized ours, and the next group prioritized theirs, and the third group, so forth and so on, compiling a bigger list. And then from that, we kind of all looked at each other's, now in a larger group, and we took out things that matched up, that were kind of the same sentiment, and kind of got rid of the duplicates, and narrowed things down, reworded a couple things. It was almost kind of like a Mad Lib game of kind of where we just put in the pieces and came to this and read it and twisted it a little bit to sound good, and that everybody stood back and said, I like that. I like what that's saying, and it's right. It's in the whole, it's right. It's us, it's the community, it's what's our role, what's our job, what we're asking of them, and how we're going to work with them. So
Yeah, no, it's an excellent explanation. That's exactly what happened that day. And so this statement, while it looks just like 2 or 3 sentences, there's a lot of work that went into that, and a lot of thought, and a lot of conviction. This is what are we all about as a police department? What are we trying to accomplish? What do we need to do?
Yeah, I can agree with that. Personally, from my point of view, I looked at it as I'm looking in the mirror, and now I'm the resident of the town needing police assistance.
Yeah.
How do I want myself to respond in my need of help? And I think everybody, for the most part, had that same ideology. And as Sergeant Powell said, it was a multi-step thing that in the end came together with this final statement.
Right, and our whole purpose was to have every member of the department, they had some participation, but they had buy-in. In other words, this means something to us.
We own it.
We own it.
Yeah.
We do own it, and we will. It's not something that's going to get buried in a book. It's something that we're going to live, and that's the message that came through. And then, very simply, the core values. Maybe a little bit about that, Sarge.
So the core values, again, similar setup, splitting up into groups. Again, prioritizing things. We used like a Post-it note system where we're just shooting out ideas, words, catchphrases. Yep. And then each group, we kind of compiled them all together, took a look at them, and again, doing away with the duplicates, and then narrowing it down. And we had some other examples of a couple other police departments and of what they had. And our feeling is we came up with our core values as being is honor, integrity, and professionalism. There were other departments that had 5 to 10 items on it. But what we felt is those three things, honor, integrity, and professionalism, they encompass such a larger definition of when you break them down, of the honesty and the compassion, and kind of going right back into our mission statement is those three terms really define us as a whole.
Yep.
So we wanted to keep it very simple, easy to remember, easier for people to grasp onto.
And these are standards that we're held to.
Yes.
That we hold ourselves to, and that the community can hold us to as well. That's the whole point. We don't work independent from you folks. We just don't. We're here to serve you. The last thing I want to talk about today is the vision statement. And from that, just to give you an idea where that came from, and that came from the mission statement, the core values, and that kind of thing, and my understanding of what this group was doing, and how do we put that in a vision? How is that different from our mission? Our vision is we're looking down the road. We're looking. This is what we want to. This is what we want to be now and 10 years from now. This vision statement, and so our vision is to create an environment that supports a stable, well-equipped, well-educated, and diverse professional police organization. That's up to us to create that for ourselves. We obviously need the community to help us do that, to make sure that we can accomplish those things, to stay well-equipped, well-educated, and a diverse professional police organization. We will continue to build upon this vision through open communication, personal empowerment, mutual respect, and receptiveness to new ideas. And folks, when you put that vision statement with the mission and the core values, I think that's a roadmap for success, and it's a roadmap for us as we move forward in the town of Dalton. That's my sense with the vision. You gentlemen?
I agree. I especially like the receptiveness to new ideas. Society evolves. We have to evolve with it. We have to constantly be moving forward right along with all the change in the world.
Yeah. It's almost like every day. I mean, there's always something. We cannot stay stagnant. We can't stay in the past. Right. Can't do it.
Yeah, and to add to that, again, they all work together. And the vision statement, again, the things that people have to understand is that we have a job to do, okay? We don't target people. We don't go out looking to quote unquote mess with certain people and things of that nature. Trust me, as we joked about, if I have a boring shift and I can get paperwork done and work on my evidence and meet up with my partner on the road and we can have a back and forth for a while we're out in the street, that's a great night. Trust me, we'll take those all the time. When we get a call for service, we get a complaint, we get the report of a crime, we have a job to do. We will treat you with all the respect you deserve when we get to that, whether you are the suspect, you are the victim, or whatever. All we ask for is that mutual respect back. Again, if our hands are tied and we have to act and we have to do a certain thing, we're going to do our job. We have a job to do. It's the same job you would ask your doctor, your lawyer, your dentist, your clerk at the grocery store to do. This is our job. Treat us with respect as we will treat you with respect. We will work together. We will try to keep the community safe. And it takes a team effort. There are only 2 of us on the road. There's only around 15 of us in the department as a whole.
Yeah.
We can't be everywhere at once. We ask for your help and communicate. And if you do have issues, and if you do have problems, and you do have complaints, or you hear the bump in the night, call us, talk to us. That is our job. That's what we're there for.
It absolutely is. Anything else on that?
No.
Kinda-
You
Go
know,
ahead.
He mentioned back to joking about sometimes it being boring. I can tell you, we do enjoy the boring nights, like you said. We don't use the Q word in that sense.
That's right. No, we don't.
We don't.
We
we
never
don't
use
talk
that.
about it being quiet when it is. But
We don't do that. But it also, on those nights, it gives the officers a chance to interrelate and to exchange information and to make that part of it work. Which if it works for them, it's working for you folks. And just remember this too. When they say we're receptive to you and we are here for you. We have an open door. We all do, including the chief. Any issue, any concern, nothing is too small. Pick up the phone, drop in. The lobby to the police department is now open. Must wear a mask, and we'll give you the service that you need. So, having said that, I just want to again thank Sergeant Powell for joining me today.
Chief.
Officer Buzzella, thank you. You did a great job, and I think you're just a great representation of what the Dalton Police Department is all about. And folks at home, I just want to take a moment to thank you. Thank you for everything that you do for the community and for us. And I just want to thank you for joining us today behind the badge. If you see it, hear it, report it. Thanks.